All right, we're going to do a little industry talk here. We've got Barry Rashawn up in here. Barry's worked with everybody from Drake, Nicki Minaj, H.E.R, Rosalia, Tyga, Ella Mai, Jesus.
Amen.
Who else?
Amen.
You know, pretty much everybody.
Praise.
We got Rocco and Joey in here today. Multi-business owners, musicians. They tour all over the world. They've done everything from voice acting to playing with the largest New Zealand artist of the last few years. And we're going to dig into the music industry and kind of different things that you can do to break as an artist, different insights into how it really works, and all the stuff you have to do to try to survive. And it's a lot. So let's start with Barry. Barry, you've got a very interesting story, how you broke into this. Can you shed light on what your experience was?
Wow, where do I start? So I was born in New York, raised in Jamaica, lived in Jamaica for 17 years, and then decided that, okay, when I got to the States, I was just like hanging around with my cousins, and they were like, you know, let's get into music. So I was like, okay, I did the whole school thing, didn't like it. I mean, loved it, actually. My teachers were great, but the whole business of school I didn't like. But then I got into Premiere Studios. I got an internship and worked my way up that ladder real quick within a year. And then I started like actually tracking like major artists from like Trey Songz to working with DJ Khaled, working with Busta Rhymes. Like I worked with a lot of people working at Premiere. And then I decided, you know what? It's time for a change. I don't want to be a tracking engineer. I wanted to mix. Let's move to LA. My wife got kind of scared. She's like, okay, sure, we're going to do it. We moved to LA, started working at Larrabee Studios, shadowed on the Manny Marroquin for like 8 months, and then became Jason's mix assistant for a while. I worked with him for like over a year, 2 years, close to. Yeah, but it's been a wild ride.
That's over at Larrabee?
Larrabee Studios, yeah.
Larrabee Studios, yep. So, I mean, obviously, jumping into it that quickly and you know, being in the room with those people is intimidating, right? I mean,
it is very intimidating. But one of the things I can say is for, you know, as anyone that, like, again, want to come into the industry, is just find your entry point. You know, you have to find some entry point and figure out how do you get there, you know, because like I could have came to LA and didn't get into the studio, you know, and that would have been a lost cause.
Yeah, and I also think it's interesting because we tend to, even in the music business when you're starting out, you tend to sensationalize human beings, right? We're all human beings, right? Y'all are very important human beings. You're here right now being human beings. And when you get into a technical environment like making music, and you sit in and you look at a session and you look at the stems of artists that have been sensationalized to you, and you start breaking it down, you're like, oh, I get it. I hear the layer. I hear the weak pitch on this one's been corrected. I hear that. You realize, oh, this is what I do every day anyway. Yep. It just happens to be with somebody who sells a lot more records.
Yep. It's really it. It's really it.
And in a lot of ways, what I've found is the higher people are on the success level, the more professional they are. The faster they are, the quicker they show up. There's not a lot of BS and redundancy. I was just telling him I've been so good on the PC tip in here and not saying any bad words. So, you know, you get professionals, and there's a reason they got to the point where they are. Yes, some sneak through, and yes, some are a cousin of somebody. Hey, whatever, you know, birthright happens. It happens, whatever. But in the end of the day, it's the same stuff.
Yeah, everyone's a regular person, man. And if you're a people's person, you can work in this industry. You can't work in this music industry if you're not a people's person. Because no matter what you do, if you walk in a room and the star is there, someone that you saw on television or someone that you looked up to or you idolize, they don't want to sign an autograph. They're not here to sign an autograph. They're here to get the work done, you know. So you got to be cool. You got to be able to talk. You got to be able to help them through their problems sometimes, because they'll call you and say, hey, yo, what do you think about this? Or, you know, I'm trying to do this. Like, they're regular people. So it's just a matter of like, okay, getting really good at what you know how to do and be the best at it.
And I think that people forget how when you're at a certain level of exposure, you become very insular because you really can't trust a lot of people because people are living off the sensation. I think people forget that when you're a star, people don't necessarily like you. They like what you can do for them or the social equity that you give them or the entertainment value or whatever it is. It's really a selfish thing. So people need to understand when they go take a picture of a celebrity, they're actually being selfish.
Yep.
And so you have to do it in a very respectful way. But anyway, I digress. You are an entrepreneur. You've done a multitude of things in the music industry. I think it's important in this day and age that you diversify, put eggs in different baskets. Tell us a bit about the multiple businesses that you have and run.
Well, it's funny. They kind of, they just kind of came about very naturally. Like I went to recording school just because I really admired this guy Dave Fridman of Flaming Lips and MGMT fame. So I got to study under him. Fell in love with the studio engineering process, and then right after that, I got to merge that world with my love for composition and performing. But I got scooped up by Mattel, and I was writing commercial music for like 10 years with for companies like Fisher-Price and Mattel, Disney, New York, Nickelodeon. I wrote like a full-fledged musical that toured zoos, which sounds hilarious, but it was actually amazing.
I heard you say that earlier. And I'm
it was bizarre.
Zoos.
It was bizarre. Well, it was
So
funny
you
because like I
literally-
expected like my New York debut. I was like going to be Broadway, but it was like the Bronx Zoo, and I was like,
Hey, but
something's off here. But it was a cool start. You
Bro,
know what I
if
mean?
the
Got me excited.
giraffes are into
Hey,
it,
they
though,
were
it's
yeah,
like-
exactly those neck bobs, man. It's it's deeper. It's deeper. It means more.
It doesn't matter that most animals can't put music and melody and rhythm together, but that's okay. It's okay.
Hey, that's just your opinion, man. No,
Take it
but
easy,
so
man.
after that, then I kind of had golden handcuffs, but I lost that. I moved to New York, but I was able to freelance still, doing all my commercial work, and so it was kind of nice because I built up this clientele that allowed me to be free, go tour with other musicians like. An artist we play for from New Zealand, Jin Wigmore. So I'm on the road. I could do like an editing project or composition gig, and we'll be in wherever, Germany or New Zealand, Singapore, whatever. And she's taught me a lot too. From there, we got to. Her and I did some writing. Got a sync for Grey's Anatomy. She does syncs all over the place. So she's in every Hulu show and.
So
God
they
knows
call
what.
her to do custom stuff.
Yeah, she's got a great like chainsaw of a voice. It's very unique.
Nice.
So it just works really well for that stuff, and it's fun.
And you brought our friend over here.
Yeah, it's Joey Secchiaroli.
Joey Secchiaroli. I was going to mess up the last name.
That's all right, man.
I
Most
practiced
people
it
do.
5 times before this, and I sounded kind of like I was in The Godfather. I didn't get it right.
Secchiaroli sleeps with the
Secchiaroli.
fishes.
Is it like this?
Yeah.
Secchiaroli?
Yeah, you gotta go like this when
Hey.
you say it. Yeah.
That's good. You want I to make him disappear? How was that? Well, good.
It's good, man.
See, I do a lot of things too. Anybody need that?
on. Yeah.
So talk about your guys' business relationship and the things that you're doing together.
Sure. I met Rocco 5 years ago. We're in our own band Kindo together, which I started about 14 years ago. I've been trying to make it break up for 14 years, and that hasn't worked out. So
That's not true.
it's part of Rocco's fault.
Yeah, I took the blame.
It's it's been a really cool project. I mean, Rocco and I also play with Jin Wigmore, as you'd mentioned, and we've also worked on a couple of peripheral projects, like producing some tracks for some other artists here and there. But as far as my the businesses that I have a studio in the East Village when I'm home that I manage. It's actually the same 2 rooms that the Strokes recorded Is This It in. So it's got some really good juju.
I bet there's others too before that you didn't know about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there
Like
was.
Bob
yeah.
Dylan or somebody.
I'm sure.
Mark, what was it? Mark Ronson has a space there as well.
He did, I think, but yeah.
Village, man. It's fun.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
cool.
man.
It's good.
Good
vibes.
energy down there. So that's one business model. I started off recording bands, producing my friends' bands, using them as guinea pigs, and I've always been in a band, so I've always produced my own band. I've always loved audio. Mixing has always been a passion of mine, as well as performing. So I've always kind of towed the line between those two things. And similar to Rocco, we are kindred spirits in that sense. And that's part of why we work so well together in Kindo. one of the things that's really fun about that we work the most together is we have a Patreon account, a Patreon campaign with Kindo, where every month we write, record, and produce and mix a new track every month. And that has forced us to become prolific. And our music's kind of this, I would use the word fancy to describe it. It's kind of like proggy, jazzy, Latin, pop, this, that, the other thing, a lot of layers. So it's really been a fun exercise to see, as you were talking about earlier, as you become professional, you have to become more concise and just more efficient in your production process. So rather than spending weeks deliberating about creative decisions, it's forced us to learn how to make those decisions quicker, follow our intuition, and then let it go into the world.
So looking at all of the different things, if I'm going to recap what you're doing, and relate this to being let's give, musicians tips on things you can do in the music industry. If you're a touring musician, you can pick up sync work because you can do that in the hotel while you're traveling and at night, as you can sound design and voiceover work, which you admittedly say you do so that Mattel puts the voice in the little kids to haunt your friends from high school, which is cool.
Oh, they're
You can
children.
also mix if you have some Dynaudio speakers at your house.
If you have some Dynaudio. Thank you, Barry Rashawn, who works with Drake, Nicki Minaj, her, Roselia, Tiger, Element. So talking about, what you do, and relating that to Dynaudio, who's been gracious enough to host us in a fish tank in the middle of a convention in California. How important is it that you have top quality stuff?
Super important. Super important. More important than even the quality is just understanding what you have first, because if you don't know what you have, you don't know how to use it, and if you don't know how to use it, you already lost the game.
Right.
But I think it's super important to have quality. I was just listening to the new speakers that they came out with. Oh my gosh, they're so transparent. I was telling, I don't remember, Brian, I think it was. I was telling him how it's really, really transparent. The high end is not over too much. It was not too little. It was just right, and it's like the perfect speaker, because I feel like that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand and don't get, that the speaker's more important than a lot of the gear that you use. It's more important because everybody can use plugins now. So if you have a great set of speakers and then the room that you're in, you can mix any record, a number one record in your room. It don't matter.
I mean, what you just said is so important to understand. If you can learn the tool, right? Mm-hmm. It's about the relationship to what happens after it comes out of there to everything else, right? If you learn that relationship, if you know it sounds this good here and it doesn't sound good there, then you tweak. And then it ends up sounding good there, and then ends up sounding good there. And once you get your method down, then you can mix anything.
Mm-hmm. So now here's the thing with having great quality. You don't have to think about that, because whatever you have, if you have these speakers that they just came out with, you don't have to worry about, if it sounds good here, you don't have to go listen anywhere else, because now you know the quality is good. And that's the advantage of having great quality. So yes, it's great to know your instrument, but having quality that you don't think about, you can be more creative. You can just express. You can move the faders and get the job done and not have to second guess yourself. That's the thing about not having good quality for any upcoming artist or anyone that's in the industry or trying to get in the industry. I would say invest into yourself by investing into great equipment, because by having great equipment, the second guessing, the going to test in the car and coming back upstairs, no, you get rid of all that.
I'm pretty sure Brian's loading up a dolly right now with some monitors for you right as we speak. But yeah, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, look, in what we do, it's important that you have all the right tools, and I think when we're talking about independent artists and trying to help support them, which Dynaudio Unheard is doing, it's important they have the right tools to understand how to launch a career. And we were talking about it earlier. There's different venues to make money in the music business, right? Like we just talked about with you. You got voiceover. You've got doing commercial work, custom composing. You've got licensing. Create something, license it. pennies from heaven come in. I wish the residuals were what they used to be, but you know, thank you Netflix for killing our.
I know, right?
The Napster of it. I love you, Netflix. I'm actually doing a couple of Netflix shows right now. So I'm sorry, guys. No, but streaming changed the game for publishing. It's diversified, right? But it's an interesting revenue stream. If you're licensing music, all that money that was at the top of the pyramid on NBC, ABC, whatever, is now spread out to influencers, to social media, to whatever, you know. But there's a lot more opportunities now to make money and exposure in licensing and showcasing your music in visual media, right? So looking at all those different verticals, you also have touring, but everybody knows that you have to get to a certain level before you can tour. I mean, you can tour, but you're just going to spend money and not make any back. Right. Yeah. So I'm going to direct this to you, Rocco. In what you do, what have you found has been the heaviest lifting to make money, and what has sort of been the easiest side effect to make money in the content game?
I think the most promising thing we found is with like the decline of major record labels, you know, like searching for that pipe dream. It's what we do with Patreon has kind of helped incredibly. Like we get fans who support our music directly. They're, you know, vehemently supporting it every month, and you get instant feedback. It's like a direct relationship. We kind of have like this family thing that comes from it.
It kind of behaves as like it replaces the record label in a sense. Like our fans are now providing the resources to produce the tracks, and they're cool. Like
they send you like dinner in a box and
money.
Money. Yeah,
like some blankets and
cash.
Cash.
Cold hard cash.
So what is that? Is it like Twitch or something where you just like, here I am working, and they're just like sending you $5, $20?
It's like a subscription model, right? Like every month they donate a certain amount, and they get a song. And half of them don't even listen to the song, do they?
Well, some of them don't, but I mean, because they're more interested in the physical copy. Like it's a really cool community, I've got to say. So again, as certain industries die, new ones birth out of that, you know, and it's really refreshing because, like I said, it becomes more of a family. Like I know our fans intimately in a lot of cases, and some of them are more well-to-do, and they'll help us out a little bit more. I mean, we are completely fan-funded. We're completely independent, which means our music gets to be independent in the truest sense. We can take whatever artistic risks we want. We can go as deep as we want with a cut, and they love us for it, and they celebrate it. So it's like, that's very refreshing. And then versus, you know, as you mentioned, the more video content that all needs audio and music, with that advent of different streams for video and what have you, like we're able to have more opportunity to compose to and edit dialogue and sound design and all that. So we're passionate about all of it. I love music. I love audio. I love sound design. So if you fall in love with your craft, there's so much to do in all of these areas. You know, people complain about social media kind of taking over, but it's like, hey, everybody needs content now. So we are creators of content. The world is open to us. You know what I mean?
And you're damn good at it. So
we love it.
That helps.
It certainly helps.
I mean, let's be clear. It's like you guys aren't sitting here because your stuff, you didn't finesse your craft. You didn't burn those hours to learn it and get really good at it.
But that's just it. You burn those hours. You spend all that time where you're not making money necessarily, banging your head against the wall, getting good, becoming great at your craft, you know. And that's a lot of the thing. Like in our culture, we want instant gratification, right? Everybody wants to be a superstar immediately, but it takes spending time alone in a room, in a dark room, dark, lonely room, creating beats by yourself, you know what I mean? Practicing whatever your instrument, your voice, whatever that thing is. It takes a long time to master that craft. And some people get lucky, and that's cool too, but it's like...
Yeah, good for them.
Good for them, you know? It's like...
Good for you. Good for you.
People.
I mean, luck, you know, what is luck? They say it's preparation, right? I mean, you got to be
make
ready
your own
for your
luck.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's like a bus.
You get luck once you earned it.
That's right.
If you didn't, you don't keep it. Yeah, man, I mean, thank you for coming on, and that's it for us today. Thanks, Barry. Appreciate you. Thank you, Rocco.
Thank you,
Thank you, Joey.
Appreciate you for having us, man.
Appreciate
Cheers.
you, man.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Good to be here.